After the sand settled on the final race of the season, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, let's go through and rate each and every one of the drivers and how they got on over the entire weekend. And there's one place to start. Max Verstappen, the winner of the race. He actually had a struggling start to the weekend, didn't he? His free practice wasn't great, but when game time came, qualifying, he turns up, bangs it on pole. And then in the race, it was all about, can Charles Leclerc get past him early doors and sort of make some sort of race of it? Wasn't to be, defended well, and then he just did Max Verstappen things, didn't it? Off he went into the distance, a country mile victory. He's been absolutely phenomenal this season. The car's been fantastic, no doubt, but he's got 19 wins out of 22. That is just absolutely incredible. 1,000 laps led. The RB has won 21 or 22 races this season, and so he has got his hands on something special, and I think he absolutely knew that, appreciated it, and all he could do was max it out, and he absolutely did that. I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10 for the weekend because I think he looked like we might have someone else on pole. He managed to fend that off, and then he did what he did in the race as usual. Next up, second place, Charles Leclerc. I think he got the absolute most of that car, didn't he? His qualifying session was not great up until Q1, and then game time came and he pumped in a lap and a half. He was absolutely delighted with that. Second place, I don't think that car was fast enough to be there. And in the race, actually, he did really, really well. It's normally a one where you'd see Ferraris that they struggle on tyre deg, but he managed to make it work. Had the foresight to let Perez through and try and help Ferrari can gain that second place in the Constructors' Championship, and it was all down to his thinking to sort of see what he could do to get that P2. I'm not sure where the Ferrari strategists were this weekend again, but it was Charles on his own doing it all. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. It could even be 10, to be honest. He was absolutely brilliant this weekend, Charles Leclerc. Third place, George Russell. Now, again, I think he got the absolute most of his car again. If you look at his teammate, it was miles away, wasn't he? A fourth place start in qualifying. He did really, really well in my view. And then in the race, it was a straight fight between Lando Norris's team and Russell's team in the pits. And for a change, Mercedes pulled off a decent pit stop. I don't think it was anything spectacular. I think it was more that actually McLaren made a mistake on theirs slightly, sticky wheel, and that actually got him up into third place, and he did really, really well to fight that. And again, he was the only one that was just sort of like really on it. It was really good to see that P2 actually meant so much to these guys, rather than them thinking, oh, should we just get third place, we'll get more FD time and that'll potentially help us next year. But it was all about trying to get and finish as high as you can, true races. And overall, I think George Russell had a really, really good weekend. Again, I could go for a 9 out of 10, but I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10. Much like Charles Leclerc, absolutely, I think he maxed the car this weekend. Fourth place, Sergio Perez. Now, he had what we've seen all season, wasn't he? Or towards the latter part of the season anyway. A really poor qualifying, but a really good race. Mid-part after the sort of early great start that he had to the season, we'd just seen poor qualifying, poor race, isn't it? But he was on it in the race, clawed his way back up into second. That 5-second penalty with Norris was, I'm going to say it was a bit harsh, to be honest, because it was wheel to wheel. I know he sort of almost ran Norris off. Norris had to make the corner, but we've seen others do that and not really get a penalty for it. I mean, Max Verstappen's done that numerous times and got away with it. So I did feel it was a little bit harsh, that one, and I can understand Perez's frustration. But it was ultimately that let and gave Mercedes the P2 in the Constructors, wasn't it? But I'm going to go for an 8 out of 10 for Sergio Perez, just because it's a shame again that his poor qualifying sessions meant he's had to do so much work to try and get up into the second place where he should have really finished overall. Instead of him starting second and trying to put some sort of fight on Max Verstappen, he's got a lot to improve going into next season. Fifth place finish for Lando Norris next up, and This is one of this. It's a hard one for Lando because I think he's really disappointed after Saturday qualifying. He should have been on pole in my view. He had the car underneath him. He was absolutely mega. He looked like the only one to take the fight to him, and another mistake on Saturday. He was absolutely gutted after that, wasn't he? Which is really disappointing to see. But in the race again, yeah, they just dropped off, didn't they? I thought they'd have enough pace in them to even beat the Mercedes, but it just wasn't to be again. There was just struggling on the tyres, but they've had a great season overall. But overall, as a weekend, I think it was probably one where Norris is probably thinking that he should have got more out of it. I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10, and I think that might sound a little harsh, but I think he had more in it there for him, but the mistake on Saturday and just not quite at it on Sunday. Next up, Oscar Piastri. He finished in 6th place, his teammate ahead of him, and he will be disappointed again. He's still not managed to get to grips with his tyre race management in race conditions, has he? He started 3rd, struggled really early on, let his teammate pass, and then got passed by Russell on track. And then sort of fell back a little bit, didn't he? And he was not really mega quick on the hards either. He'll be happy just to finish just behind Norris rather than falling further back. I think that's the only saving grace. But overall, it's been a really good season for him. Not the greatest of weekend apart from qualifying, which I think the top 3 was really good. But race day was poor, so I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10 just because of the race weekend wasn't great, or race day wasn't great at all for him, was it? Next up, Fernando Alonso started and finished in 7th place. He had a pretty exciting race, didn't he, from overall. He pitted on lap 13, went all the way back to P18. He then passed Yuki Tsunoda at the end. He had a great battle with Lewis Hamilton also. Passed Yuki at the end, that granted him 4th place in the Drivers' Championship. Kind of unexpected from him, wasn't it? He couldn't quite do enough, both of him and Stroll, to keep ahead of McLaren. But 4th in the Drivers' Championship from Fernando, topped off what has been overall, you can say, a really good season from him. I don't think anybody expected Aston to get as many podiums as they have, and Fernando to be as good and as quick as he has been. He's been phenomenal. But overall, this race weekend, he was in a lot of the action all race, and I think to finish 7th, although it's where he started, I think you've got to think he had faster cars behind him, and he's done a good job to finish there. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10, and I think that's overall because 4th in the Drivers' Championship was an absolutely phenomenal result from him. Next up, in 8th place, Yuki Tsunoda. He finished probably one of his best weekends, I think, in that AlphaTauri team. A P6 in qualifying, his best qualifying of the season, and he was just on it, wasn't he, from the get-go. I think the strategy really cost him in the end. The one stop just didn't work. He was the only guy to do one stop out of the top 12. And had he done a 2-stop, I think possibly he would have had enough to get that 7th place in the constructors for AlphaTauri, but it wasn't to be. And overall, I think he can be really happy with his weekend. He was fantastic in my view. Got driver of the day. He held off Lewis Hamilton in the end, didn't he, on really old tyres. Repassed him on the last lap to keep that position. I'm going to give Yuki a 10 out of 10 because I thought he was absolutely fantastic this weekend. Up next, 9th place finish for Lewis Hamilton, and this has been a weekend to forget for Lewis, hasn't he? He qualified poorly in 11th place, and was just in a battle with the Alpines, wasn't he, all race, to be honest with you, and that was kind of what it felt like in the end. He had the pass on Fernando Alonso, and then at one point just dropped back, got repassed by Fernando, and then just didn't really have mega pace of kind of what we've seen, did he? He couldn't make it pass and make it stick on Yuki in the end, and I think he'll just be head down and looking forward to next season. But a 5 out of 10 for Lewis Hamilton for this weekend because it just wasn't good at all. Next up, Lance Stroll, the last of the points finishers. Yeah, he started 13th, finished 10th. I think overall for him, where he's been this season, that's a decent result. But again, he's beaten by his teammate handsomely. again this weekend. He's just not good enough, is he, compared to Fernando? And to be the top dog, maybe, you know, expecting a bit too much of him, but I think you always want drivers that are exciting and going to push the car forward into the, you know, top drivers in there. But he's like consistently okay, isn't he? I suppose that's what we can say of Lance Stroll. It sounds really quite harsh. It's not been the best season for him. He's had a decent finish to the campaign. A good point, I suppose. That's all we can say. I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 for that race weekend. Next up, Daniel Ricciardo. He finished in 11th place, started in 15th, just missed out on some points. He was again close to Stroll, and potentially could he have helped the team with finishing in 7th. It wasn't to be, was it? Yuki outshone him all weekend. I understand, obviously, Danny's just coming back into the car and Yuki's been in there all season, so there's still probably Daniel getting to grips with a few things. Next year is his full season. He's got a full season, off season to prepare for that. So I'm sure we're expecting a different Daniel Ricciardo. But overall, yeah, the poor qualifying session really made it harder for him to sort of have some impact on the race weekend. But I'm going to give a 6 out of 10 for Danny Rick for this weekend. 12th place finish for Ocon. He started and finished in 12th place, and I think that was just pretty much what the car had, wasn't it, all weekend. Just wasn't fast here at all, and he was kind of disappointed with that. A 5 out of 10 for him for this weekend. 13th place finish for his teammate. He'll be actually quite disappointed. He started in 10th, finished behind his teammate, and he didn't get the favourable undercut strategy, did he, which he was really disappointed about. But then he got a bit of a bump in the rear from Perez early on, and then again from Hamilton. Caused damage to his diffuser, and that was, yeah, when you lose that, or parts of that, you do lose a significant amount of downforce. In the end, he was really disappointed but happy to finish, I suppose, so that shows the level of damage that he has and was suffering with that car. But I think he would have hoped to have done better, at least from where he started. But there's not much you can do when you've got damage like that. A 5 out of 10 for Pierre Gasly for this weekend. 14th place for Alex Albon. He started and finished there. He had a poor start, didn't he? We dropped him back. He was P18. And then slowly made his way up. Not a great weekend for the Williams outfit. They weren't really challenging for the points at any point. But I think they've just got to be really happy that they got the P7 in the Constructors' Championship. They put in the work early on, got the points lead, and that's really, you know, they maximised where they could to get that. So hats off to them, brilliant job in the end, but not a great weekend for Alex. If you look at it where it was, but yes, to start and finish where he is, considering how bad a start he had, I think he did a decent race in the end. But I was a bit disappointed. I thought a bit better from him, but I've given him 5 out of 10 for this weekend. Next up, Nico Hülkenberg, and he had a fantastic Saturday, P8 start. But race day again, and I think said there's a couple of times now this season where he's qualified really high up, but his starts have been really poor. He was 6 places down by lap 1, and then that was just, yeah, the misery carried on from there, wasn't it? They struggled on tyre deck. It was just a horrible, slow car for them, and Haas probably have been disappointing actually, haven't they? They started off really well with a decent car, just didn't have the momentum or any upgrades to follow, and they've just fallen further and further back. The big upgrade came, it's just not seemed to have worked at all, and then they'll probably just be happy to just go into next season and start afresh and see where that leads them. But I'm going to give a 4 out of 10 for Nico Hülkenberg for this weekend. 16th place next up is Logan Sargent. He had a horrendous qualifying session, 2 lap times deleted, didn't even set a time. I mean, that's not the first time he's done that this season, and I think when you're a rookie, that's the least that you should be doing. The only good part about his race is he didn't finish last. I suppose that he can be probably happy with that. He did say though that he didn't have, or they didn't optimize his strategy because they did try to hold Daniel Ricciardo up so he doesn't get into the points. He did that for a few laps successfully, so I suppose mission accomplished on that front. But overall, it was interesting that they went for that, to just hold Danny Rick up, keep that 7th in the Constructors. It worked, I suppose, in the end. But yeah, will we see him on the grid next season? That's the key question. And I think I personally think if we were to see him on the grid next season, it would have been done by now. There's still probably quite a few doubts in the minds of James Vowles, isn't it, of whether he says let's stick with him for next season. But what options do they have? I mean, Theo Pourchaire, who won the F2 championship, could he go into that seat? Frederick Vesti, but I think he's more in the Ferrari driver academy, isn't he? So potential there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that seat. It's the only seat on the grid that is available for next season, and has he done enough this season to keep that seat? There's been glimpses, hasn't he? Had a decent Saudi qualifying, odd decent race, but you know, he finally got that point because of a DNF for Charles and Hamilton, which got him his first point. So it wasn't even one on the track really, in that sense. So yeah, Liam Lawson got 2 points in the Constructors' Championship and was ahead of him, just short in. So it'll be interesting to see if he's there next season. I'm not sure personally that he's done enough, and I would like to see someone else come in and see if they can hit the ground running. And I think the problem you've got is rookies that have come in the past have really shone. He's not done that, but look at what Yuki did. He wasn't fantastic early on, and now this season he's absolutely flourished and been brilliant. So, you know, maybe just a bit more time, we'll see the best of him. Let's see what happens there. 17th place finish for Zhou Guanyu. Yeah, he beat his teammate. I suppose that's the benefit, and he was just happy to just finish this race. The car was slow. Started 19th, finished 17th. I think the reason he beat his teammate because he actually went for the two-stop strategy, which was the best one to go on. I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 just because he beat his teammate. 18th finish for Carlos Sainz. Now, this is like the most baffling race strategy I've ever seen ever. What were Ferrari thinking? They've just gone and, you know, he was actually in a quick car, made his way up, but then went for a two-stop strategy, double hard, and then just waited and waited for a safety car that was just never going to show its face. So why they left themselves in that position is really beyond me. I'm not sure what they were thinking on that front at all. Like who goes into race day thinking, yeah, our best chance is that we just hang out and wait for a safety car, and they normally have like plan A to F, don't they, with strategy? But I think the strategist there was on his winter break already, wasn't he? It seems, even when you look at Charles Leclerc, what happened on that side of the garage as well, with Charles sort of calling all the shots all race. But yeah, nothing but disappointment for Carlos Sainz. He must just be scratching his head to see what's gone wrong there. We can just only hope that they sort of iron these things out and fix it for next time out. It was a poor qualifying session, started 16th, and it just didn't get better in the race at all. 18th place finish for him. A 4 out of 10 for Carlos Sainz. 19th place finish for Valtteri Bottas. He started 18th, finished 19th. He went for the one-stop strategy, and it was just horribly struggled all race. Didn't move forward. Finished towards the end. I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10 as well. And then finally, Kevin Magnussen, the last of the finishers. So we had no DNFs for a change this weekend. He started 17th, finished last. It was just a horrible race. The car just isn't good in race conditions at all, much like Nico Hülkenberg, same complaints, and he was just glad to get end of the season, wasn't he, and just get rid of this car, and hopefully they can fix it and they've got something to fight for towards the front of the field, because we'd all kind of like has to do really well, I think, me personally anyway. But yeah, you'd be disappointed. It was a horrible weekend for him. I'm going to give him a 4 out of 10, Kevin Magnussen. And not really through much fault of his own driving, it was just down to the car overall, wasn't it? But from 17th finishing and running last, you can only be disappointed with that. And that's the wrap for the Abu Dhabi drivers rating video. Thanks for watching and sticking with me throughout the season. There'll be stuff and content coming up throughout the summer and winter break, stick with it, and watch out for, there'll be a season review to come. my best race of 2023, stuff like that. So thanks for sticking with me and hearing us out. But yeah, that's it. Season come and gone. It's gone in a flourish, hasn't it? Absolutely fantastic. 22 races. We're in for a longer season next year. 24 races we should have, and it should have been this year that we had a dropout, and then sadly we couldn't make it to Imola. So it should be even better next season. Let's see if the guys in Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes can, you know, rise to the challenge of Red Bull absolutely wiping the floor with them this season. To win all but one race is just absolute domination, and they'll be licking the paws and trying to scratching their heads to go away and come back next season to try and bridge that gap. It just didn't work, did it? We've not seen the evolution of the jump of the cars from last season to this season, where they've closed that gap really. If anything, Red Bull have stretched it, and you just got to give credit where it's due, haven't you? Fantastic from them, and it'll be interesting to see where the concepts and what everyone comes up with next season. We've heard a number of drivers already saying they're really looking forward to it. Williams have already got the car in the wind tunnel. Alex Albon saying it looks fast. Let's see what happens with it. But there we go. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and comment as always, and I'll see you in the next video.